We will now discuss the linkages between ADO.NET and Visual Basic 2008. To do so, you need to set up data access to a Visual Basic 2008 application through three objects. These three objects must be in place in order for this communication to take place. Those objects are the binding source, the table adapter, and the dataset. I'll look at each one of these in more detail. The binding source creates a link to the actual data, which is a specific file or a database. As you will see in a subsequent movie, you will use a wizard to automatically create your binding source objects. You can also use a new binding source object using the Data Sources window of the Data menu. This is a vast improvement over earlier versions of Visual Basic. The second item that's required is a table adapter. The table adapter handles the retrieval and updating of data. It will automatically generate the necessary SQL or Structured Query Language statements that you need. SQL statements are used to select and change data as needed. Also, the table adapter does all the work of passing data back and forth between the data source and the program. The binding source for a table adapter does not have to be a database. It can also be a text file, an object, or even an array. No matter where the actual data is for the binding source, the table adapter transfers the data from the source to the dataset. It will fill the data from the dataset to the source via XML. The third component that's necessary is the dataset. The dataset contains the actual data as a temporary file in memory. The dataset may come from multiple sources, and the controls are bound to the dataset that will automatically be filled with the corresponding data. In ADO.NET, datasets are said to be disconnected, which means that the copy of data in memory does not keep an active connection to the data source. This technique is a big improvement over the record sets of earlier versions of ADO, which maintain open connections to the data source. A dataset may contain multiple tables. However, the examples that we'll see have only one table per dataset. Any controls you have bound to the dataset will automatically fill with data. Once again, the good news here is that the Visual Studio 2008 environment will step you through this process in a step-by-step using a wizard and fill-in-the-blank type applications. You do not need to really have a great knowledge of database terminology or database language in order to effectively use databases within the Visual Studio 2008 environment. In a separate movie, this will be demonstrated.